Welcome back everyone. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus and see how this phone holds up in the middle of 2021. I've already reviewed this thing quite a few times since I bought it, and I'm a fan of it. I've always loved this phone. I think it's a great device, but this phone, it kind of had a sad history, which I talked about in my full review earlier this year. And essentially, it didn't get a long supported, lifespan, which is very sad. The S10 Plus ended up getting it. This phone did not. If you do want to pick it up, links will be down in the description, but I'll probably leave some other phones too. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, the front of the S9 Plus does have that 6.2-inch Super AMOLED display, and it's a 1440p panel. And I think overall, it's a very good looking phone still. Much like the S8 Plus, very good looking display, curved display, big panel. It's just, I'm a huge fan of it for sure. You have a USB Type-C port on the bottom with a headphone jack and a microSD card slot. Those things in and of itself are strong things to have on a phone like this, and like I mentioned before, it is without a doubt something I always look forward to when a phone has all these type of capabilities, and I'm a huge fan of this specific phone in that aspect as well. On the back, glass back, fingerprint sensor, dual camera setup, and overall, it's a very good phone. IP68 certification, wireless charging, the whole 9 yards. Of course, it doesn't have things like reverse wireless charging or 120Hz refresh rate or anything like that, but I do think it gets the job done, and I'm a fan of the way this phone is even now, to be honest. Now, hitting on the cameras, this thing has that dual camera setup on the back, so a 12 megapixel wide and a 12 megapixel telephoto lens, and on the front it has an 8 megapixel wide and then a 2 megapixel iris scan or whatever that is. Now, the camera on the back, like I mentioned before, I'm a fan of these type of cameras. Samsung does a really good job at, specifically handling the type of camera that it has, and I think Samsung did a good job with this one. 4K at 60, which is really good on a phone like this, and I think that's really all you need. As long as you have 4K at 60, that's really all you need. The front, on the other hand, 1440p, and I think it's okay. I wish it would have gone up a little bit more, but again, what are you going to do? I think ultimately this camera is probably more of a pro than not, and I still think it looks really good for sure. Now, hitting on the software, like I mentioned, this is another thing about this phone that I'm not a huge fan of. It started off with Android 8.0. It did get up to Android 10, which I liked, but unfortunately, it just kind of stopped. It's not going on anymore. And I just think this is something that I'm not a huge fan of. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish it did get Android 11. I wish it had stock Android. Unfortunately, it does not. And again, it's like, what are we going to do about it? We can't really do anything about it, and we're just going to have to wing it. But I really do think this phone, in terms of that standpoint, is a huge plus, and I'm still a huge fan of at least being on Android 10 on this thing because of that gesture-based design. But I wish it did go on a little bit more. So in terms of software, that's kind of where I'm at. Not a huge fan. The battery life, though, I think is actually a pretty good thing. It has a 3500 mAh battery, which was an improvement from the previous phone. So I think that's another pretty big plus about this phone as well. And I think, the battery life is a huge plus. Everything else really not completely great in my opinion. So in terms of that covers it up there. And ending it off with the performance, this phone has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 chipset, Adreno 630 GPU, and 6 gigs of RAM on every single model of this device. And like I mentioned before, I think this phone is a pretty good performing device. It's definitely not amazing. I wish it was a little bit better here and there, but I think this phone does a pretty decent job with the type of chipset that it has inside of it. And that's really it. I think this phone overall is still pretty much worth it for the most part. I think it's a good phone for some things that I had here and there, but I just think nowadays it really isn't super crazy. And I wish, as of this point, I wish it did go a little bit further in terms of software, but I think as of now, it's at a good spot and there's really not much we can do about it. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.